back in 2011, just a few years after we established the coalition, Arizona, and our very own Nicola Winkle, really the brains of the operation, folks. Yeah, you all recognize that, right? Yeah, okay. You don't have to agree so quickly. Jeez. We're featured in a prominent promotional video for joining community forces. This was an initiative from the White House and the National Guard. It was Nicola and 3 adjutant generals, 3 National Guard generals, and they're called the adjutant generals, or tags, right? Yeah, okay. And so we just kind of affectionately called it 3 tags and a lady. The tags loved this. Yeah, they thought it was super fun. Yeah. I really wanted to kind of take us down memory lane and kind of watch it and be like, ooh, look how fun this is. Nicholas said, nope. Everybody knows that we are living in, some heightened times. We're operating in, supercharged climate right now. The beautiful thing is that this type of initiative is focused on service members, veterans, and their families. We are focused on service members, veterans, and their families. We have had the opportunity to partner with multiple White Houses, multiple congressional offices, multiple governor's offices. First, in 2010, we had a White House roundtable highlighting state-level efforts. Then in 2011, we worked with Joining Forces. Awesome. Then in 2019, we contributed heavily to the development of a White House Prevents initiative. We heard about that yesterday as well. Today, we are truly honored to have Sheila Casey, Executive Director of the White House Joining Forces Initiative, here to share a special message for our community. Now, I am pleased to welcome our honored guest this morning, Ms. Sheila Casey, Executive Director, White House Joining Forces Initiative, Strategic Operations Executive and Board Director, Office of the First Lady. As a military spouse with more than 40 years in service, Sheila has lived in the U.S., Europe, and Egypt. She has a deep appreciation, and I love this part, of the importance of healthy family life to ensure overall military effectiveness, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later. It was just like this, ooh, cool, it's perfect. You'll get all this in just a sec, okay? Yeah. By the end of this general session, you'll get all this. Sheila formerly served as the board chair for Blue Star Families, awesome. Military Child Education Coalition, very cool, because that's Purple Star. We just got that in the state. Yep. You know who got that in the state?
I don't know, but it took a while.
It did. You know who got that through?
His wife.
Yep. Melissa Rushoff, General's wife. And a member of the Leadership Council of Bob Woodruff Foundation, whom we used lots of wonderful funding for to help support the Navajo and Hopi Nation during COVID with water, wood, all sorts of wonderful, amazing things. So awesome, awesome work you have done. Please join me in welcoming Sheila. So awesome. Thank you so much.
All those board positions are the past. I had to give up every one of them when I took this job. But that was okay. First of all, it's really an honor to be here with all of you today. And thank you, Thomas, for including us in this symposium. And as I look out on this audience and the amount of people here on the state level, it really does my heart good to know that each and every one of you here is here because you are supporting military and veteran families. So to all of you, a huge thank you. I'd like to start by giving you a little bit of background on joining forces. The initiative was originally launched in April of 2011 by then First Lady Michelle Obama and Dr. Biden. With a strong external focus, joining forces gave a face and a voice to service members. First Lady Michelle Obama and Dr. Biden called on all Americans to rally around service members, veterans, and their families, and to support them through wellness, education, and employment opportunities. Arizona answered that call with your Arizona Coalition for Military Families, and you have continued unceasingly since then to work to provide the best care and support possible to all of those who serve and their families. 10 years later, in April of 2021, guided by the life experiences and perspectives shared by military families and stakeholders during listening sessions with Dr. Biden, joining forces began the next phase. Its mission is supporting military and veteran families, caregivers, and survivors. The three pillars that we are currently working on, spousal employment and entrepreneurship, military children's education, and health and well-being. When it comes to health and well-being, it's critical to acknowledge that military and veteran families continue to shoulder the weight of more than 20 years at war. The global pandemic intensified stressors, including access to mental health care, economic insecurity, and support for caregivers. Joining forces is working to ensure that the federal government is marshaling its resources and collaborating to better serve military and veteran families while also lifting up the best practices and resources from our community partners, hence this organization. Similarly, we must account for the lifelong impact of service on the more than 2 million military-connected children in classrooms across the United States. Joining forces is working to improve military student identification methods, cultural competence, and resources to support these children in their classrooms and ease the burdens created by the highly mobile military lifestyle. And lastly, joining forces is focused on economic opportunities for military-connected community. We know that frequent relocation, state licensing requirements, child care needs, caregiving, and deployments all contribute to the unique challenges that military spouses face while seeking to build sustainable careers. Many military and veteran spouses, caregivers, and survivors, the vast majority of them who are women, struggle to achieve their desired career goals due to the strains of multiple deployments, frequent moves with little control over their geographic locations, caring for wounded, ill, and injured service members or veterans, time apart for training, and more. Although military spouses are talented, diverse, and resilient, they find themselves facing a 21% unemployment rate, a rate that has not moved significantly in the last decade. Employment challenges are not limited to active duty, as Reserve and National Guard spouses must balance their careers against the challenges that arise during those times when their service member is activated and deployed. What we have learned from generations of service is that the unique demands of military life continue to affect veteran families, caregivers, and survivors for years after a service member's time in uniform. While we are working with the nonprofit and private sectors to mitigate these challenges and drive economic opportunities, we are also collaborating with our agencies to ensure that federal government is an employer of choice for military spouses. To that end, on June 9th, 2023, the President signed an executive order advancing economic security for military and veteran spouses, caregivers, and survivors that included nearly 20 actions aimed at enhancing career stability and expanding government resources and support for this community. Since that signing, we have worked diligently to implement these actions, and we hope to have that completed this year. We know that we cannot do this work alone. Working with our community partners and lifting up the work they do benefits this community. Joining forces and the White House are here to support your efforts, and we congratulate you and all Arizonans on your tremendous efforts and exceptional care for our service members, veterans, and families. I am a 41-year Army spouse. I've moved 25 times, and I worked hard to keep my career as I moved. I sent my husband to Iraq for a year, and he returned 32 months later. I watched my son deploy to Afghanistan, and I held my breath until he returned. I know what it is to live this life, and I also know the support that service members and their families need to continue to live this life. It is my honor to serve the First Lady every day as the Executive Director of Joining Forces. She is a military mom and a nana. She understands the fear of sending her son to war and the joy of seeing him return. She held and comforted her grandchildren who desperately missed their dad. She is one of us. Dr. Biden wishes that she could be here with you today, but did not want to miss the chance to be able to speak to you. It is now my honor to introduce my boss, my friend, and a true champion of military families, Dr. Jill Biden.
My father served as a Navy signalman in World War II. And I've been thinking a lot about him as Joe and I plan to attend the 80th anniversary of D-Day in Normandy this June. That generation, the greatest generation, sacrificed so much to create opportunity for all those who would follow. The Bidens are a military family. Our son, Beau, also served for a year in Iraq as a member of the Delaware Army National Guard. And I saw how much Beau's wife, Hallie, and children, Natalie and Hunter, missed him while he was overseas. During Beau's deployment, Natalie's teacher hung a photo of Beau's unit outside the door of her classroom, so everyone who walked into the room would know that her daddy was away at war. That meant so much to Natalie, and it shows how everyone has a role to play in supporting our troops. It takes an entire community, and the Arizona Coalition for Military Families knows that well. It's what's at heart of your mission. Only 1% of our nation serves in uniform. It's a small, selfless group that defends the freedoms of this country. In 2011, in the midst of 2 wars, we started joining forces to support military spouses and children who had watched their loved ones return to battle again and again and again. Because even though military families may not wear a uniform, they serve our country too. Groups like the Arizona Coalition for Military Families were with us from the beginning. Thank you. We continue that work today. Those wars have ended, but the needs haven't. Our troops are still being deployed, and military families and veterans still need our support. My husband often says that we have many obligations as a nation, but only one sacred obligation: to prepare those we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they return. As president and as a military dad, Joe never loses sight of that conviction. That's why he's worked relentlessly to make sure our service members, veterans, and their families have the resources they need to thrive. Mental health services, spousal employment, the PACT Act, affordable child care, support for veterans, caregivers, and so much more. Your president and I are so proud of this community. And that's why it makes us angry when some who have never served a day in their lives denigrate military service. That's just wrong. Our service members and brave heroes and selfless patriots, and you deserve nothing less than our unconditional respect, honor, and support. The path of service isn't an easy one, I know. Disruptive moves, missed birthdays and holidays, sleepless nights worrying about the safety of the person you love most in the world. But you do it anyway, because you love this country and want to protect it. Because when someone asks for help, you're the first person to lend a hand. Because you know that freedom isn't free. Nearly 51 years ago, the last American was drafted into military service. Since then, our armed forces, the world's finest, have been made up entirely of volunteers like you, everyday heroes who step forward, who sacrifice their own safety willingly and proudly so that others can be free. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your service. And thank you, Arizona Coalition for Military Families, for your support. May God bless our troops and their families.